Hello guys and welcome to this new episode 4 now of How to Go Pro. Today on the show we have the amazing Hayzer. You guys should know him. If you don't, he is the coach of Obey Alliance, has been for like 1 year now, since Super Regionals 2016.
Yes, that was when I joined.
Yep. Also, of course, the proud owner of the Bat Cave, the Hay Bat, the Hay Niche, the grind never stops. That's the Hayzer we all know and love. But truly, I think Hayzer is one of the best coaches out there. Working with him, obviously, I've not worked with a lot, but today on How to Go Pro, we're going to be talking a bit about the whole coach perspective is what we're going to be calling this. How does a coach influence a team? What can you do as a player to work well with coaches? Is there any like recommendations? Obviously, Hayzer has from working with pro players. And yeah, Hayzer, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, other than being a little bit sick. So apologies if I cough or anything throughout the video. I've been sick for like a week now. I've got like a throat infection, which is pretty fun. So we've taken a little while to finally do this video, but here we are. We got there in the end. So yeah, I'm just I'm looking forward to talking about things.
So let's just start off, as I always start off. How did you get into Smite, and like what was your path to where you are today? Like what's it been like?
So Smite wise, I actually bought my first ever PC to play Smite, my first ever actual desktop PC. I used to watch some YouTubers, a guy called German, a guy called Stir, and a guy called Booman61, who all played like a tiny little bit of Smite, and I was like super into it. I was maybe 19 when I bought that PC and went to start playing Smite. So I got into the game a little bit later than most people in the professional scene. But yeah, once I did, I played a lot of Smite when I was supposed to be studying at uni. Ended up on my first ever team, which was with No Numbers, was the notable player on the team to start off with, and eventually there was a team with myself, Deathwalker, Calas, No Numbers, and a guy called Just Jack, and we had Alpha Jackal coaching as well. So 5 out of the 6 of us actually ended up making SPL in some way, shape, or form after that. But yeah, that team kind of fell apart when I was getting towards the end of my my uni days. I made one last final go trying to make a team with a guy called Fexes, who people who were around in the scene for a long time might remember as a pro player back in the day. That fell over as well. That failed. So I was like, whatever, I'm done with this. I finished uni. I offered to sub for Deathwalker and Calas's new team, which actually turned into Rival, as it's known today. So I was the coach. Well, I wasn't the coach. I was the sub. And like eventually I just watched a couple of scrims and gave them some feedback, and they were like, hey, you should do that more. And I just kind of tripped and fell and became a coach. I don't really know what happened. I just fell into this coaching role somehow. And yeah, that was kind of how I joined the competitive scene. That was how I got there. It was a wild ride,
It must have been, and
basically an accident.
So from the rival day Cyclone, when was that around? Was that like when they qualified for SPL or?
Yeah, so it was May 2016 would have been when I finished uni. So June 2016, I think I graduated. I'd already become a sub for them at that point. So sometime May or June 2016, I became a sub for Clown Fiesta, as they were known.
Oh yeah. What was your role in your old team with Just
I was
Jack?
a hunter.
You was a hunter main.
Well, yeah. I was not bad, I'd like to say. I think I was up there. We very nearly made SPL a couple of times. We choked. We're chokers. I remember one open bracket semi-final or final game. We were playing against Ayers and that lot. I think Rapio was on that team. But I played Shibalanke, and I played out of my mind. I had like 55k damage over the game, carried it in the late game, got us through it. But yeah, we lost the best of 3, so didn't quite get there. But that was, I think I used to be okay at shooting out some bolas, shooting some arrows.
Oh no, that might be why you're sick today. Too much Blanc.
Too much Shibalanke.
Some
the poison darts have gotten to me, Yeah,
I was thinking about the bolas. But
yeah.
I guess it's double sickness, and from there, as we all know, Nate has talked about it a lot. Like Hayzer came on to Obey because they were so fascinated by how angry you are. or were,
Yeah.
if I remember
So
correctly.
yeah, well, Cyclone GG. We were, in our infancy as an SPL team. We went to our first LAN, the group stage LAN. We all had a lot of fun, but I, I at the time didn't feel like we played up to our potential in like any of the games. So I got a little bit angry at the lads on stage, Deathwalker, Kalas, Ice, Wolfie, and Vote. And I just basically berated them. I think my coaching style's moved on a bit since then. At the time, I felt like I had to kind of whip them into shape and get them to play a bit better somehow in any way I could. And for some reason, Nate watched that and was like, "Yeah, I want to be shouted at. Let's get that guy." So after me and it was actually before me and the Cyclone boys didn't manage to qualify for Super Regionals. We lost in the gauntlet, but before that, I was approached by Obey, and they were like, "Hey, we kind of want you as coach." And I was like, "I could try out or whatever if you guys want." And they're like, "Nah, we just kind of want you." And so after we didn't make Supers, I just said to the Cyclone guys, who were very, very understanding about it, I was like, "Look, this opportunity's come up for me. Would that be all right with you guys if I went?" And they were like, "Yeah, of course you should. You can go to more lands. You have the chance to, make worlds and stuff," which we obviously did. So yeah, I'm still very thankful to those guys, and we're still good friends to this day. I still like all of them a lot.
And then from there, it's just it's the story, right? It's just been
so
SPL,
it's Obey, right? Yeah,
it's just been Obey. How's it been?
It's been good. It's been better. Like, I think no one ever expected us to do as well as we did at Super Regionals and Worlds. I think teams expected us to go into Super Regionals, fall down to Paradigm.
Yeah.
And at Worlds, I think people expected us to probably lose to Soar in the quarters, and then they expected us to lose to Eager in the semis, and then, expected us to lose to NRG in the finals, which we did. We lived up to that expectation. But yeah, other than that, I think we were crazy overachieving at the time. And then, obviously, after Worlds, we went through a bit of a transition period where we had to change up a couple roles, which has been kind of a staple in my career on Obey. It seems like I have to. We're cursed. We're cursed to never keep a roster together. Maybe it's just Smite in general, but
yeah.
Well, getting very used to coaching new solo laners into the team at this point.
That's a good point. When Celia is inevitably gonna join us again, by the way, after the summer split, maybe as like a second substitute for the solo lane or something.
Something like that.
Yeah. Who we bring out of retirement is like Game Hunter or...
So Game Hunter was the one I was thinking of, But, there's others we could maybe pull Julio 69 out. I think he's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
Pull him out of the amateur scene and coach him into greatness. I think that'd be fun because we got so many. Like we old as hell. Obey. We old.
Yeah, right? You're old now.
We need some young blood. Yeah, Zaylee is the youngest member of our team. Crazy.
Oh yeah.
He's been around forever.
That's true.
But I don't know. I'll truly be terrified if we lose a solo laner. Maybe I'll manage to get no numbers to leave the army and pick him up.
Over the next call. You'd actually literally have to go and pick him up. I think.
go and grab him from the army.
That's gonna go well.
War in my bedroom. No, the rest of SPL.
Knowing Israel, that's definitely gonna work out.
They're quite well mannered. It'd be fine.
You just need to take the hat on, Hayzer. I think you got it then.
Take the hat on?
Yeah, like the Jew hat,
The Jew? Oh, come on.
You can do the little hat and you can do the big hat. No, I'm not trolling.
Grow out curly enough hair.
Grow out the big beard, Just go down there. Convince them.
To be fair, when my hair's gotten long before, I have gotten like little ringlets. It's been at its longest. You'll never see a photo of that ever. Never ever.
Okay, I'm gonna have to contact Big Hayzer or something.
Big Hayzer.
Big Hay.
Big Hayzer. Doesn't know anything.
All right, so let's go back here. Do you think coaches are important in Smite? Because there's been a lot of I wouldn't say looking down, but a lot of like not recognizing coaches. There was the fact that Dickens has had to pay for Biggie to fly out because he wasn't European, etc. And I think it's not really been looked at from Hi-Res, especially as an actual impact maker. It was kind of more seen as this sixth substitute rather than a coach. Do you think? Do you think? Yeah.
Oh, go on.
Do you think coaches are important? Do you think they can be the difference makers? But you can answer the Hi-Res part first if you want.
So I think I personally, of course, I do think coaches are important. I would have to, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this personally. There would be no I would never. I would never be involved in something like this and put effort into something like this if I didn't think it was making a serious difference. I don't know. I just only am that kind of person. Maybe I just wouldn't enjoy it. So I don't know if this is the case with other coaches. I think it probably is, but I take it very like personally whether we win or lose, because I think it's just as much my victory or loss as it is anyone else on the team's victory or loss. At times more, at times less. You know, I think the game's dependent, but I never come out of a game thinking, oh, I coached fine. That's never the, like, you never come out of a loss and think, well, you know, the boys just didn't listen to me. It's just not how it works, I think. High res wise, I think originally, I think the way it was all sorted out when teams first came together was a bit, when the scene was a bit immature. Coaches weren't a serious thing, to be honest. I think they weren't treated seriously, and I don't think the coaches themselves were serious. Sorry. But I think in the last last year and a half, probably, especially season 4, I think coaches became much more serious, and the role really matured, and what players expected from coaches, you know, became a more serious thing. I think previous to that, it was quite often people would get their friends in as coaches, and you know, they would do a little bit of conflict resolution, but there wasn't as much depth to the coach role as there is now. Nowadays, I think that the teams with coaches have a serious advantage. I think that you could clearly see the difference between the teams having coaches and not having coaches on how quickly they improve in scrims, in my experience.
Absolutely.
I think that it's a lot easier to have someone on the outside watching the game as a whole recognize patterns of mistakes and help you fix those than it is for, you know, I think quite often for individual players, you can fix your individual mistakes, but you can't fix mistakes that you make as a team. Like, for instance, I don't know, like overstaying after getting objectives, or
you know, the classic obey,
not looking for buffs. So it's I think 2 years ago, if you came to me and said, do coaches matter, I'd probably tell you not really. I think nowadays it's a lot more important than it has been previously, and I think that any team without a coach is doing themselves a serious disservice at this point.
So actually, I didn't really prepare this, but now I kind of got the questions in my head here.
Okay.
Do you ever think that in esports in general, but also like Smite, are we ever gonna get to a stage where it's gonna be like football, soccer for all the American people out there, fake sport? It's not called soccer; it's called football. Damn it. Anyway, do you think there's ever gonna be a case where coaches are gonna be the one that are getting the blame, that are gonna get fired, where coaches are the one that can like hand pick their teams and say, I want this player, as we see it in football, where like the big coaches are the big names, they're like the big personalities. You have Mourinho, you have Guardiola, which are like the talking points when you hear of these teams, you know?
Yeah, I think we could get somewhere close. I don't think I'll ever hit quite that. I think you'll have the potential of people who are there in a similar management context to scouts as football, where they try and seek out talented players and pick them up and figure out who should be on the team. And I think, I personally think that the coach role in video games is, it's not in the same realm as in that kind of sport, where you have to come up with strategies which you will use throughout the game, and you have to try and exploit opponents' weaknesses. But the players in football don't really do that at all. They just listen to what they're told. I think in video games it's already a point where a lot of players themselves will look at the other teams and say, okay, this is something we can exploit, blah, blah, blah. And I think that the coaches in that sense have less of a job to do than in football. It's not only on them, it's on everyone as a group to figure that stuff out. I think that coaches picking teams, maybe. I think maybe in the Overwatch League they do that. I'm not sure, because they obviously sub in players and sub out players, and I imagine that you would want someone objective to be making that decision. So maybe they're almost getting there already, because they sub in players for different maps, and I can't imagine that they have a captain or anything making that decision. That should surely be someone out with the actual team. who can be. Oh, go on.
Do you think that maybe we're seeing now that high-res are making SPL this like 1 year thing, right? The 1 year contract with different organizations, and then they can renew or not. But it seems we have like at least 6 orgs now. I guess 1 or 2 might change out. But do you think we're ever gonna get to a point? That's something I could see happening, where actually organizations has a coach, and that coach can like guide the org and saying this is a good player, this is a bad player, as if I was the general manager of NRG. I know Julian is like the exception to the case, right? But I would not know anything about the players. I would not know like if this is a good person or this is a bad person. Do you think we're gonna get to like a phase where orgs will hire coaches to just put together a team?
Possibly. I think that the issue there is that generally the people who become coaches are people from within the scene because they have to understand the game. So these people have a relationship with people in the scene already. So there's no and they don't have a relationship with the organization. So the organization's never really gonna get a feel for whether or not they can trust this person to be objective, I don't think. Which is the difficult part, because the Smite scene in particular, maybe in other esports where it's a bit bigger, but the Smite scene is it's relatively small, you know. Everybody knows everybody, and I don't think it's quite big enough for there to be coaches to be trusted with that, who aren't going to have personal biases. And I also don't think there's maybe the player base for it. I mean, you look at the roster changes that happened this season in Europe. It was considered like it was going to be a crazy roster apocalypse, and you look at what it really was. There were a few people swapped around. No one really knew is in the SPL. It's all people we've seen before. And I just don't think if you sat me down and said pick up 5 players, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna look at 3 teams and I'm gonna pick players from those. And in reality, do you really want to split up those players who have built up synergy over years? Probably not. So yeah, that was probably an overcomplicated answer to that question. I think the answer is
think that's fine.
I don't see it going there.
Okay.
In Smite at least, maybe in other games.
All right. So a bit more for you, Hayzer. As a coach, is there like a perfect player for you? What's the perfect player to like coach and work with as a coach? If you could give some advice, right? Because this show's about how to go pro as a player. Like, what can you do?
What the best thing? So I think something which is important is being receptive. There's been like 1 or 2 players I've ever worked with who I've had slight issues with listening to me. None too recently. I'm not going to name names or anything, but I think an important thing is there has to be a level of respect between the coach and the player. Otherwise, the relationship's never going to work. You have to listen to them and think, this is a perspective of someone who's watching the game above me, even if you disagree. And that happens all the time. I'm wrong all the time, man, like all the time. But it's worth at least listening to them and having the discussion and not disregarding anything they say. The other thing, as I'd say, in regards to what I like from a player, is someone who's hardworking. I like people who are willing to, you know, if we're having a rough time, they'll put in extra work. They'll put in work playing the game outside of scrims, and also watching scrims back, I think, is something which probably too few people do in Smite still. But like, if there's an important game, it's really beneficial, I think, to get the team together and say, right, we're going to do a VOD review on this. We're going to go into this team fight. We're going to have a look, because you guys don't know why it went wrong. And we're going to watch it, and you guys are going to tell me why it went wrong. Which I think is always a good learning exercise. There's only so much you can tell people. Sometimes they have to see it for themselves. But yeah, overall, just being receptive and to constructive criticism is really important. And working hard. I like people like Nate does a little bit of my job for me, especially when I was really busy at work and stuff. He was always willing to step in and do the gather data about drafts and stuff like that, which was super useful for me. So yeah, people like that can be a really useful thing.
You already just mentioned a bit that this preparation and these things behind the scene. I talked a bit with Jeff about it as well. how sure you play Smite, but you think about Smite all the time, right? You do prep. You just mentioned the guard data. You talked about what reviews. And talk to me a bit more about prep. How much time does it take out? How important do you think it is? You just mentioned you think it's like underestimated to go back and look at the what reviews.
Yeah. So I definitely think before every SPL game release, you should be looking at what other teams have been doing previously, what they've been doing against you in scrims, and what they've been doing against you or other teams in the SPL. So I think that can give you an idea of their prioritizations for drafting. It can also give you an idea of where you can exploit on the map, depending on how they play, their support and jungler in particular, you know, whether they favor, for instance, maybe you'll look at Dardes and Jermaine and you'll say, okay, they clearly favor being together in the duo lane. They're probably going to do a start where they'll be together in lane. Dardes is going to come over and try and punish your ADC as much as you can. How can you deal with that? Do you need to get wards up aggressive in the duo lane side? Stuff like that. So I think that, yeah, preparation, that's the kind of thing you're looking out for. That's a good example, I guess, of preparation for the mouse sports roster that we might do. We might say, okay, so we need to be super careful around Nate. We need to help him. We need to get wards down. Raffer, you need to go and do that. Get those wards down for him, and then you can look to make plays elsewhere on the map where we have a numbers advantage if we think they're gonna camp duo lane. So, yeah, I think that kind of thing can definitely, and has been, I think, one of the reasons that you saw last year in season 4, Obey, I think our lowest finish online was 2nd place.
Yeah.
And I think that's because we took preparation seriously. We were prepared for every SPL game. We prepared differently for every team we played. It was never a case of, well, it's just Pappies. Like, we don't need to worry about this. We're just drafting. We were like, okay, so Dalo likes Raven. Let's not give him Raven, and then we'll, do whatever. It's the little things, I think, that really do make a huge difference.
So one thing is obviously preparations online, but people talk about the whole time as well. When we get to the LAN metas develop, and I personally like being at LANs, at Worlds as well. The amount of prep you have to do and sit down is really time consuming. I think my advice to like new aspiring pros is, if you're going to Atlanta, you're not gonna get to see anything of Atlanta. Like you're gonna go to the studios. I guess now we're gonna be able to scrim.
I'm looking forward to that a lot.
They're doing like the scrim rooms, which they already announced, right? They said they're gonna get scrim rooms.
I hope so. I think
they did.
Otherwise we did.
Otherwise we did, and we'll get fined, and that's just how it is.
Cool.
Sorry. Love you, Vinny and Oren. Look really innocent. Anyway, you're gonna go there, right? And you're gonna practice. You're gonna scrim. If you can do that now. You couldn't do that so much before. And then you're gonna play your games. Obviously, there's like meetings you have to be at. You have to do certain like interviews. There's a lot of like media stuff. Then you get home after your games, and then you just do preparations. Then you rewatch your own games. Then you rewatch their games. Then you sit down and just do different drafts for so long.
Strategy, yeah.
And then you go to bed, and then you wake up, and then you eat, and then it's the exact same. And then it's Sunday, and you win, and then you can go out and party.
Bar, yeah.
and then on Monday you have to go back home again. So it's hard work being at LANs. I'm exhausted when I get home, and I'm also looking forward to going home after LANs, like as much as I'm looking forward to going there.
Yeah, I think there's a big reason that a lot of teams take like scrim breaks after coming back from LAN. And that's people, especially people who from outside the esports community. I know this personally from my work experience, but like I would take time off work to go away to a LAN, and I'd come back and they'd be like, "Oh, what are you tired for? How was your holiday?" I'm like, "Man, I have worked 12-hour days for 6 days, and then I had a day where I took a 12-hour flight, and now I'm back and I have to go to work again." I've not had a holiday, by the way. Is the way I feel about it. Yeah, going to LAN is not a break. It's not a time to have fun with your friends. That's you will have fun with friends. You get to hang out with other teams a little bit, which is always fun. One thing that I think is great in the Smite community is how people in general do get along. Like I can go and spend time with anybody, and I'll have fun with them.
Yeah, exactly.
We all just really like playing Smite. We like talking about Smite, but we have other things in common as well.
I think
so it's always fun.
I think a bit about this burnout thing you said, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been watching in particular, but I know a lot of you guys that watch me as well follow Counter-Strike. IEM is happening right now. There was this pre-interview with Stewie today. Stewie's the player for Cloud9. They obviously won the major, which is pretty much world championships, right? In CS. And he was talking about how his team felt burned out after winning the world championships, winning the major, and how they needed a break, how they went out and played poorly in the star ladder. Like after that, I think it's just people underestimate how much work a LAN is. Like a LAN is working 12 hours days, if not more, and it's thinking about Smite 16 hours and then you sleep 8, right? But we gotta get going here, Hayzer. Talk to me a bit about the different playstyles in Smite. I'm thinking people. I'm not thinking that, well, there's the traditional roles, right? You have a Guardian, you have a ADC. I'm thinking more like
supportive versus hard carry playstyle.
Yeah, exactly. Like every team, I think, needs a playmaker. A person that's willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good, right? On Obey, it was kind of Twig, right? And then I think
was Twig,
and I think every team also need a carry to some extent, right? You have these carry players. Some teams do get along without carries, definitely. But do you think there's any like roles in Smite?
Yeah, I agree with that. I see what you're saying there. So I think what you can have is you can have players who are out there to sort of fill what the team needs, which I think is what I would say is these supportive play styles, these playmakers, whatever you want to say. These guys typically outside the hunter role, I'd say you're looking at support, jungle, or solo. Personally, but these guys are the ones who will sacrifice themselves to make things happen. They will jump into a team fight to make people use stuff on them so that their hunter or mage in the backline can sit and pump out damage. They'll be the ones to go over to Gold Fury and distract there while your team sneaks Pyromancer. I don't know. Basically, they're facilitators for the other guys on the team, the guys who you might call the superstars, the guys who probably get most of the credit, who, normally really, really good mechanically. And what they'll do is they generally farm out the early game. They will look for outplays if they're playing an aggressive god, and they will get those outplays a lot of the time. They look for solo kills, but they're going to keep themselves safe. They're probably going to keep a low amount of deaths, but they're going to have high impact kills. They're going to come into team fights big. If your team's stomping a game, generally they'll be pretty massive, and probably won't die in that game, and will look really good and do a shitload of damage. So I think your team, I think generally each role relies on the other. So these support style guys, they need these playmakers to be able to hit their stuff, and they need them to be able to capitalize off the space that they make for them. And equally, these playmaker guys, they need that space. They need someone else to be almost a sacrificial lamb for them to have the opportunity to put their damage off without having people running at them and CCing them and doing whatever else. They need that little bit of space that this supportive style player creates. And I think it is like a very much a push and pull relationship where you need both. You need people to help you out. And I think looking at Obey, you look over the three solo laners that we've had over the last little while, and you look at the one constant with them, I think, is Twig. Twig gave each one of them a lot of space, a lot of farm. He shared with them. He's not a greedy person. And then and each of them, I think particularly the one that comes to mind is Variety at Worlds. Variety, really, really good player, obviously. And at Worlds, Twig was the only jungler who picked up the hog, which gave Variety the space he needed to buy teleport, to be able to bully lane, to be able to get himself big, invade blue buff, stuff like that. And Twig took the sacrifice for that. And Harry ended up looking amazing at Worlds, and he did play really, really good. But I think a big part of that is, unselfish play from someone else, which might be underappreciated, but I think is, equally valuable.
Yeah, without tooting my horn too much as well, I think that's one of the things that, especially now when people compare Refer and myself playstyle wise, I think one of the things when I played on Obey, right, was that I got the space to kind of play the carry, right? Like I was not doing damage, but it's unusual, right? Like I was able to play my Amy, my super aggressive Amma. I could play my super defensive Hell, and that I don't think that would happen if I was at least an old energy, right? Where imagine adapting playing Kuzenbo,
Yeah.
you know,
You've got
that's just not gonna happen. Imagine adapting playing Kabrakan, that's just not gonna happen, you know. So personally, I'm really excited for new season, because how do we adapt as NRG, but also how does Obey adapt? Like, are we gonna see Twig in a more like carry play style? Are we gonna see Salia? Are we gonna see Raffer play like super crazy carries?
Maybe it'll be Nate. Maybe Nate will be the aggro hunter. Get man her every game.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe Nate was our real carry players. I still have nightmares about the Eastern Army dash or the Gold Fury wall.
He was like, oh yeah, I can dash in. Why not? You know, I could go.
All right.
No, Nate. No.
What quality in a player, Hayzer? If you had to choose one single quality, what would you value highest? Would it be like good mechanics, good comms, or just a nice guide? What would you pick?
I think I'd say probably hardworking is what I'd go for, because I think that everything else, I think that mechanics, we're now at a point where the difference in mechanics between professional players, you know, there's still a difference between different players, but it's negligible enough. Yeah. And I think the scene's gotten mature enough that I think that the thing that really makes a difference is players evolving to new metas, players learning how to play new gods quickly, players putting in the time and the hours to improve themselves. And I think that, everything else can come out of being hardworking. So that's why I'd go with that, I think.
So we're doing the single questions right now.
Cop out. Yeah.
what would your single best advice be to an aspiring pro? Would that also just be hardworking then?
It would be get on a team. I think that it doesn't matter what level of team you're playing on. Get on a team. Because the best way to learn is by playing in high level games, playing in tournaments, playing against people who are better than you. That's how you will improve. The most marked improvements I've ever seen in teams is when they've been scrimming against teams that were better than them, and they've just learned from their opposite number, you know, more experienced players, players who know the meta better than them, players who have been around for longer. And it's just the best way to learn is to be there and do it. I think people talk about learning by by books and stuff like that in other fields, but I feel like almost maybe it's me as a person. I feel like in almost every field you're best learning by doing. And you know, you can put as many hours into ranked as you want. You will plateau in ranked. You need to get past that. Get past that level of being a ranked superstar and really get on a team that you can consistently grind with and consistently get better. I would say that's definitely the best way to learn. And the best way to go pro.
Finishing off, Hayzer.
Yep.
Why do you do it? Why are you a coach? Why do you love Smite so much?
It's all about the money, dude. It's all about the money. The money and the girls. So personally, for me, it's about competing. I don't know. I guess a lot of people don't know. Money thing, I earn more money from my other job than I do from Smite comfortably. And I don't really care about money. I actually, when I joined Obey, I didn't take any money at all for Super Regionals. So that I just wanted to be there. I wanted to win. So for me, it's for the satisfaction of seeing a team that I'm a part of win things and to see improvement. And I just love that I think this is the one time in my life that I'll have an opportunity to compete to be the best in the world at something. And I think that's crazy. That's nuts. Most people, you know, 99.999% of people on the planet don't get that opportunity to compete at that level, you know, on the world stage. So yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm here to compete and I'm here to win.
Is that your last word, Hayzer? Is there anything else you want to add? Anything you think we haven't spoken about, or something you want to say? Any shout outs?
I don't know. I get a question quite often about how to get in the position of being a coach, which I think is kind of a tough one. I think in general, it's a lot easier to become a coach if you're already involved in the scene. And you know people. It's about knowing people, really, because no one's just going to pick up a random coach. I mean, you can offer your services and you can say all these things, but unless you're established in the scene, I don't think it's ever going to happen. So on that note, if anybody who's going to ask that question or is looking for the answer to that question, thanks for watching through the whole video to see the answer. But what I'd say is, just get yourself as involved in the scene as you can, maybe playing as much high level ranked as you can, and then the best way again to learn coaching is to be on a team and to do it. Players will teach you more about the game than you will teach them, is what I'll say. But
yeah, with that perfect advice, I guess now I can even call How to Go Pro coach.
Yeah, maybe I'll give How to Go Pro as a coach. I think it's much more of a niche market.
Yeah, I guess, but it would be sick. But with those words from you, Hayzer, thank you so much for being on. It's been a pleasure, as always, with everyone, and you as well, as always. I hope you guys out there enjoyed this episode of How to Go Pro. You guys can follow us on our socials. Hayzer, can you point? I think like somewhere.
Which way
down.
am I pointing?
Yeah, down that way. Yeah.
Whoa, that way.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, almost right. Capital H on the Twitch. Otherwise, the link won't work.
It probably will work.
Yeah,
I'm
trolling.
Okay, I'm glad you're trolling. I have to make sure. I get told a lot of dumb stuff about computers, man.
Yeah, but wait. Do you actually want to do your outro, Hayzer? Because you are also on the overview. Oh, can you remember?
Of course, I can do the outro. Yeah. So thank you guys very much for watching this episode. You've been great. I've been great. EmilZy's been great. Make sure and give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Make sure and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to receive notifications, you can click the bell, and then you'll receive notifications whenever a new video is up by EmilZy, and you won't miss out on any of those. I know you all dread missing videos, so that's the solution for that. But that's it from me. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time when I won't be on.
Peace out.
No,